This is how you find off-market vacant land deals. Today I'm going to be going in-depth on the buying process of how you find them, and stick around to the end because I have one key tool that you need in order to be successful with this. My name is Hunter and I'm a real estate investor and I do multiple land deals a week. I'm going to be going over the purchase process of how you buy these properties. And if you want to learn the entire process, I have a video linked in the description below which goes over that entire process. But starting off, I'm just going to be going over the 6 main things that you have to do in order to purchase a property. There are 6 steps that you have to take when you're determining which parcel of land that you're going to buy. So the first is determining where you're going to buy it. The next step is you're going to evaluate the zoning of the property. Next, you're going to find the specific parcels that you're going to buy. Fourth, you're going to contact the owners. Fifth, you're going to negotiate with the owners. And sixth, you're finally going to buy the property. So breaking it down, the first step is determining the location. You have to determine who your buyers are first. So if you're going to purchase a property in Las Vegas, Nevada, your buyer is probably going to be somebody who is a residential builder. If you're going to be buying property in North Carolina, there you could be selling to somebody who is going to build a cabin, they're going to be camping on that property, or they could be building a regular house on that property. So there you might be selling to the end buyer versus some places you might be selling to a developer. So determining what you're going to be doing with the property first is the first step that you have to take. The next part about determining the location is what you're going to be buying the property by. So if you know who you're selling it to, the next thing is finding a reason that that person's going to buy it. So if you're buying vacant land within a city, you want it to be in a new area where people are developing. And if you're buying something that's going to be more of a rural property, is it going to be for hunting? Is it going to be for a lake type of property? And then you have to find out something that people are going to want to go to it. So if it's going to be a rural property, it would want to be by a popular lake, by a state park, by a national park, by some sort of attraction that people are going to want to go to that property. And it's also going to have to be within a distance of a big city. So if it's within an hour or two of a big city where a lot of people live, that would be the better location to be buying from. If it's within a city, like I said, you want it to be in the new area where people are developing because developers are going to be purchasing that property to build there. So determining where you're going to buy it is step 1. The next step is to evaluate the zoning. So when you're buying property, you have to make sure that you're able to do what you want with it. So like I said, if somebody is building on that property for a new development, you have to make sure zoning allows that, especially if it's going to be for a residential property. So what you have to do is first figure out the county that it's going to be located in. So if it's within that county, it adheres to the county zoning, and then it adheres to the city or the township zoning, and then below that would be the HOA. So you have to go talk to all those people to make sure that the zoning allows what you want to do with that property. So some questions to ask if you're buying property that's going to be rural for camping or putting a cabin on it is, what can you do with that property? So can you camp on that property year round? Can you build on that property? And if you can build on it, what's the minimum building size for that property? Because the reason that you're asking these questions is that you want to be able to sell this property to as many people as possible. So if you're able to do all those different things, then you're able to sell it to a lot more people. So to do that, there's a couple ways that you can figure it out. You can call the county, and for example, if the county that you're in is Clark County, like Las Vegas, you Google search Clark County, Las Vegas, Nevada, whatever, and you'd find the county contact information for zoning. You'd call them up and you'd just ask those specific questions if you can do those things with the property that you want to do. They'll be able to help you out. The other things that you could do is go online, search up the county name, search up zoning, and there's usually going to be some sort of zoning information there that you can read through, or you can actually go into the county and they have those records available for you to go look through and figure out what you're able to do with those properties. But really the easiest way is just to call the county and ask those questions, and they'll be able to help you to figure out what you're able to do with that property. So step 3 is finding the specific parcels. Once you've determined the location that you want to buy it in, you've determined that the zoning is okay for building or camping or whatever you want to do with that property, the next thing is to actually find those specific parcels. So parcels that are going to have the best return are ones that are generally going to be smaller. Typically, I'd say 3 acres or under are going to have your best return because the actual value of those properties, according to the tax assessed value, is going to be a lot lower, and you're also able to market it up higher above that tax assessed value. So if you're able to purchase it at a low price and then mark it up slightly higher, that's where you're going to be making your spread, and that's how you're going to be making your money. So the best way to find small parcels is you can first start by looking at where other people are selling. So you can go to land.com, you can go on the MLS, you can go on Zillow, and you can search up and find where other people are selling properties, and you can filter it by the size of the property. And that's how you're going to be able to find other properties that are selling that are about the same size that you're looking to buy. Once you've found other parcels that are of the similar size, you're going to go look at that map again and find a cluster of those. So the best thing that you want to do is find an area that has a bunch of parcels that are the same size. So if you find a development that has a bunch of half-acre already subdivided parcels, that's the best case scenario because you're able to go and market to that whole area and hopefully buy some of those properties. So once you find that area, you're going to mark that down, and that's where you go on to the next step. So once you've done all the steps so far and you've found the parcels that you want to purchase, the next step is going to be actually contacting the owners. So the best way to contact the owners is to look at the map using LandGlide and then export all of the owner's information, which I'll show you in a separate video more in depth on how to do this. But the main thing that you're going to be doing is exporting their information and then putting that into a spreadsheet and reaching out to them. So when you have their mailing address and their name, you're going to be able to reach out to them via direct mail or cold calling them. You don't have their phone number yet, but if you want to reach out to them cold calling, the best way to do that is going and taking their name, putting it into a website called truepeoplesearch.com, and then searching them up that way. You're going to be able to find their phone number most likely. If not, you can also add on their city that they live in, and it's going to filter it a little bit more, and you're going to be able to get their number that way. You can also use other skip tracing websites, but True People Search is a free option to get started. The other way the best way to reach out to people is via direct mail. Using direct mail is the best because it actually has their mailing address listed on the parcel. So you're able to mail them and you know that it's going to the correct owner. And when they get that mail, most people that are getting mail are getting spam letters, they might get a postcard. So if you actually get direct mail that looks better and it stands out, you're gonna be able to get a high response rate from these people. Typically when I'm mailing out to people, I use my service called directrei.com, and we get anywhere from 10 to 30% people that are replying back to us on our mail campaigns. And the amount of time and money that is saved by doing that is tremendous, because if you're actually cold calling every individual person, that's a lot of time that you're investing into doing that. Whereas if you're mailing out a bunch of mailers to 1,000 people, they're calling you back directly and you don't have to spend your time reaching out to them. They're reaching out to you. So that's why direct mail is a lot better than cold calling. But like I said, the next step is actually reaching out to them. So doing one of those two things is what you have to do. So the fifth step is negotiating. So when you reach out to them, you actually have to talk to them about what the prices are going to be of the parcel. I generally like to ask them what they want for their parcel. So a typical conversation could go, hey, I'm interested in your parcel. Would you be interested in selling it? They say something like, yeah, I'd like to sell it. How much are you offering? And in that case scenario, they're asking you to offer to them. And I like to flip it around and try to figure out more about the parcel before I'm making an offer on it. So how I would do that typically is be like, yeah, I just have a few more questions on the property. And that's where you would go through and ask the typical questions about zoning, about what they've done with the property, maybe why they bought it. And then from there, you can ask, hey, how much would you be looking to get for it? So you can flip the question around on them. If they don't want to answer that, you could then go on to another question of how much did you pay for it? So you could go back and be like, how long ago did you buy the property? They say, oh, I bought it 10 years ago. Like, oh, do you remember how much you paid for it? And the big thing that you're trying to do here is figure out how much that money they have invested in that property. Because if you're gonna make an offer on it, you don't want to be lower most of the time than what they paid for it, unless they're in a desperate situation where they need to sell it. So if they bought it 10 years ago and like, yeah, we paid $500 for it, then you know that you're pretty safe where you're able to offer a price higher than what they paid for it if their price was so low that many years ago. So once you actually have negotiated with them and you've determined a price that they're willing to sell it for and how much that you're willing to pay for it, you actually have to purchase the properties. So that's the last step. And purchasing it is actually pretty easy because what you have to do is just work with the title company. Once you've become more experienced, you can actually start creating your own deeds and drafting those up. But if you want to be safe starting off, just work with the title company because the actual fees and costs of working with them are pretty low. You're going to spend around $1,000 to work with them. You could actually get a discount if you work with a real estate attorney. You could maybe spend around $500 to $600. But the benefit of working with them is they draft the deed for you, they give you title insurance. So if there's anything that's wrong with the property in terms of the history of the deed, you don't have any risk to that because the actual title company or the real estate attorney will have title insurance who's going to make sure you get your money back. Once you've agreed on a price and you figured out which title company that you're going to use, you're going to write up a purchase agreement, and you can find those online. Those are pretty generic, and the actual purchase agreement isn't that important because that's just mainly an agreement between you and the seller saying that you want to buy the property and they agree to sell it to you. So it's more of just a contract that puts you guys on the same page. But once you have that, you'll draft it up, you'll send it to them, they'll sign it, they'll send it back to you. You have that signed purchase agreement, you send it to the title company does the title work, and they give you a closing day. On closing day, you bring the money, the seller signs the deed over, and you have purchased the property. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram and check out my other videos because I have more in-depth guides on how to buy and sell vacant land. Thanks.